Hello, my Teaserking family. I well, I apologize, but it's really just the YouTube, the internet disconnected for some reason. I see they're going to do maintenance on my what's it called? Wherever my internet is, Spectrum. So they're going to be doing maintenance on it for the next few days. So if I can't come on here, I'll come on my phone and we'll talk about it. Now, silver is supposed to really move. There's too much demand. There's no supply, so it's a very limited supply and very high demand, which makes prices go up. And they just can't. There's not enough physical to meet the demand. So the only way you're getting mine is to give me $1,000 an ounce. I'll give you a few ounces. The inflation's terrible. The dollar's gone. All right. So as we were talking football, we went through the lines. The free pick being Seattle under. What's Philadelphia? Um, Again, so my thesis is I want to take advantage of weakness. I do art of war. I bet on strength. I bet against weakness. And this guy sits there and what does he do? He throws games out. There's an injury or this or that. And he misses the opportunity. When I see Brosmer out playing for Minnesota, the opportunity is to bet the game under because the spread's already adjusted to 12, but the total is still 41 and a half, 42. Hasn't adjusted to him. We're taking advantage of that. We're saying it's probably an under game anyway with J.J. McCarthy, but with Brosmer, they got to run the ball more. They got to be safe passes. They know the kid doesn't probably know the playbook. He's not that good anyway at Minnesota. University of Minnesota, Big Ten. So it's going to be more running in Seattle. They'll take their time. Minnesota still has a strong defense. So we have an under team in Minnesota who just got a better under team because they're not going to score. And we got Seattle who's got a good defense. So Seattle with a 20 defense should basically shut out Minnesota. Well, why don't we take Seattle? Well, because again, it's 12 points. Again, it's the NFL. And we know there's a lot of fixing going on. So they can easily win by 10. And I don't like a teaser. I like the teasers like at least in this game would be -4 or obviously under a field goal. So 12s, I kind of stay around, but I think the under is the play here. So this guy won't play the game because the quarterback being out, he has no statistics. There's no analytics on it. And this is the problem. And you're giving away what we hope is an easy pick because it's an under. Because how are they going to score? This Brosmer, now I know I've seen him last year, so I know this guy. He's not good. So what are you going to do with this guy? It's not like Daggio Pava is the backup quarterback. I would probably bet Minnesota in 18 if Daggio was the quarterback, or if my Baylor guy Robertson was the quarterback. Although Marcel Reed, I don't daft him. I don't like him. Prophet, how are you today? A little trouble with the internet, but as usual, I do part 2. So the whole thesis of me is understanding, looking at the big picture, grading the team. So like, let's look at Detroit, Green Bay. Detroit was a B. Green Bay was a B team with a 15 defense, and Detroit was an over team with the 22 defense, and that's after getting my stats after last 5. So I approached the game, and I look at the game, and Detroit was 2.5 3-point favorites, and the total was 49. Normally, I like over in the Detroit games because they can score and they have no defense. Okay. Green Bay, Micah Parsons. That killed the over because now I got Micah Parsons. They're not going to score much. And, Green Bay is probably Green Bay or Detroit. as we see in the better when against the better defenses aren't scoring. So that ruled the over out. And then the analysis led to taking Green Bay plus 8.5, figuring, if they don't lose, if they don't win, it'll be close. And that's what I did. Are you getting the snowstorm? It's pretty blustery here. Well, we had it last night. About I went to the pool after the Ohio State Michigan game, and it wasn't too bad. And then I woke up, so at about 10 o'clock, I looked out the windows watching the USC or the Alabama game, and there was like this much snow. I'll show you. And then later on, um, this morning, there's even more snow. So this is not my car, but the parking lot. My car, I was smart. This is where I live, and you can see the snow. There's where I was. This is why I'm smarter than the average bear. I put mine in my parking spot, and I got very little snow on it. And then this is me out walking, so you can see this was all green yesterday, and it's cold, and they did a good job plowing. And Jenna wanted a snowball, so I picked up a snowball for her. So that's what we got. Um, so my theory, I have several theories that I use that is how I've been doing this. Keep in mind, I've been betting since 1969, and I've been really doing teasers since 1977 when my dad said, "Hey, there's something called a teaser." And I kind of ignored him, like, what do I need a teaser for? But then knowing me analytically, I said, oh, well, let's problem solve it. And so since 1977, I've been perfecting it. So people say, you don't need the teaser. I go, because you don't know how I do it. I don't do it like anybody else. People will say, well, I took a class and I was taught this mathematical formula and da 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 da. I learned myself from myself. So I went in and analyzed it. Sort of like how I analyze gold and silver. Oh, inflation isn't prices, it's really the dollar. See, so if you learn it on your own, like if you teach yourself golf or you teach yourself economics and money and gold and silver and football, then you know it, right? If you learn it from somebody else, you don't really know it. You kind of are just following what somebody else did, but you didn't learn it on your own. I learned this on my own. I got in, I was on the gold sheet when I was a kid, and I'd see, home favorite, home dog, but I didn't really know what it is. But then I did it in teasers, not just in regular. So that's where I learned about trends. So the way I do it is I study the team and I study the game. And then from there, like yesterday, fucking Bama, I was able to lock Alabama minus plus one. That was the lock because they had to win. So having to win it and being 5 to a plus one, I didn't have to lay points. Alabama wins these big games. They had to win to get into the playoff. That's why it was a lock. If it was 14, it wouldn't have been a lock, but at 5, it was. And so you just look at the game and you study it and you go, Alabama, they beat Georgia, good win. Auburn, weak offense, really good defense. So I knew it would be fairly close, but I thought Alabama would win they were up 17-0. I felt pretty comfortable. But I'm actually picking the game and kind of looking at the end of the game going, yeah, I should win because they have to win. As simple as that. That's why I like Virginia. I played them because they had to win to go to the ACC championship game. And I took BYU and Texas Tech. They had to win to get in. There's more incentive. And I know the teams. See, I learned the teams. So when I'm looking at games, so let's take let's take this Minnesota-Seattle game. I understand the team. Seattle, Darnell shows up except for big games. Good defense. The coach is decent defense, so they're running the Michigan defense. And they have Walker from Michigan State, so they're going to run it. Smith and Jimba. Well, Minnesota will take him away. Minnesota's got a very good defense. So I'm looking at the game and I go, what do I think the game's going to be? Well, with Brosmer, I go, Minnesota's not going to score much, but they have a defense. Seattle with a very good defense. Defenses will dominate, like we saw in Ohio State, Michigan yesterday. Yes, I ended up going under in the game. So you figure out the teams is how you bet. What's the expected outcome? This guy doesn't have an expected outcome. So this guy I was talking to uses some formula that some guy, some teacher gave him, where he actually took a class in this and thinks, oh, well, that's it. And then he does a lot of trapping. Oh, I watch live betting and that. I don't need live betting. That's ridiculous. I look at the game and that's it. And then I pick the winner. I knew Alabama was going to win. I'm not fucking with the live betting. All right, when they're up 17-0, I'm probably laying 10 points. And then Auburn ties it, it's probably even. There's no point. I wasn't looking. See, I'm not looking at over under. I'm looking at Alabama to win. That was the bet. It was a lock, and they won. I mean, I don't get what's wrong with it. I don't get what's the teaser. As I explained to him, he's like my brother. Oh, did you need the teaser? I hang up when I hear that. But I got to bet the game before. See, he misses the whole point. We've got to bet the game now. We can't wait till the game's over and go, oh, let's bet on it now. I mean, these people are so fucking stupid. So my thesis is to look and learn the teams, the quarterback, the coach, the defense. Those are the keys. If you learn them, then you can look at it and you look at the other team. So when I get, Cincinnati, Baltimore, well, let's go to Alabama, Auburn. When I get to it, Auburn without a good quarterback and the coach got fired, you freeze, and Alabama needs it. And I like DeBoer. The quarterback's a little bit shaky in Alabama. Everybody thinks he's so good, but he's not. In the big games, he chokes a lot. So understanding the defense, understanding Auburn's coach is gone, weak quarterback, and Alabama just their stud receiver didn't play or played very rarely. They didn't throw the ball to him. But if you learn the team, you know if you can bet them or not. So Alabama plays Georgia. Well, I know Georgia. I know Alabama. So I can look at it and figure out the game based on how good the offense and defense is. We know the coaches. And then the spread tells us what to do. And that's really the key to it. And so I said, I went 9-1 on my 10-team teaser again. I'll show you my 10-team. This is my 10-team teaser this week. So it starts off with Kansas City over, win. Cincinnati, Baltimore over, win. Philadelphia, my loser. There you can see I have Denver plus 2.5. I don't know how we got that line, but I'll take it. Then I got under New Orleans and Miami. And then I went Ole Miss, Mississippi State over, winner. Vanderbilt, Tennessee over, winner. A&M, Texas over. It was supposed to be 45, so I'm happy I got a 43.5. LSU, Oklahoma. I have Oklahoma minus 2.5 and BYU. So I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for 5 in college. I hit the KC over and the Cincinnati over. And my mistake was playing Philadelphia instead of Green Bay, which I did play Green Bay, but not on here. And then Denver and the Miami under are the other two plays. And I don't care. I know I'm showing you some picks today that I didn't tell you about, but I don't care. It's Thanksgiving. So with that said, I tell them I pick 10 games all the time. I went 9-1 yesterday. I went 3-0 Thursday. I went 4-3 or 3-2 on Friday. For me to pick 10 winners is easy because I understand the games and I understand the teams and I understand the point spreads. And when I see a bad point spread, I know it. And he looks at me, oh, you can't pick 10 games. I go, I do it every week. I pick 10 games. Now, get into my mind, the thesis here is I'm going to go 75% picking the games. And that's what I say on my site. And I do it. And that's why I pick a large volume. If you look at my histories, you see all these games. You see, like most handicappers are just jokes. They're just salesmen, and they're going. They give you 3 or 4 games, and take Chicago -3 and Philadelphia, whatever. When I give you all these teasers, and I give you double teasers, which is like Alabama was in 2 teasers, BYU is in 2 teasers, Texas Tech was in 2 teasers. So I do that a lot. Virginia, 2 teasers. And because I give a lot of games, because the thesis is if I give you 10 games, I'm going to win, let's say 7 or 8. Let's say 7. Let's say 70%. If I give you 10 games, we're getting 7 winners, and we'll have 3 losers, and you'll lose 3 teasers, and you're going to win 7 teasers. So you're going to net 4 teasers out. We're going to win. So we win on volume. And I know my friend asked me that the other day. How do you do the volume? Or after the loss on Friday, I lost a couple of locks, and he says, well, how do you recover from that? I says, it's money management. My bankroll determines the amount I bet, and I've always bet a lot of games at a smaller amount, knowing I'm going to win more than I lose. And then when I see, the key to me is understanding that lock. Alabama, boom. Tennessee, Vanderbilt, over. Mississippi State, over. Ohio State, under. Once you understand that that's how the game's going to be played, they're good off. Vanderbilt, Tennessee is great offenses. They're going over. Played it 2 teasers. And so I find 10 of those games, which is easy for me to do, I'm going to win 7.5 out of the 10. And so you're going to bet a little bit smaller so you can bet the wide variety, the volume of plays I play. But you're going to win 7.5 out of 10 of them. And that's the key. So we'll lose a few doubles. I lost Philadelphia, I think I had in 2 teasers. That hurt. The Texas A&M, I had in 2 teasers. That hurt. But I won the others in teasers. So there was BYU, Texas Tech, Tennessee over, Alabama. So there's 4 I won in double teasers. So yeah, I lose some, I win some. But the overall, I'm going to pick 75%. And I easily find 10, 15 games, probably more. There was some, I didn't play yesterday that I could have. And then I hit the Washington game. I hit the Oklahoma game. I love it. The harder ones like Oregon, Washington. I don't really want to fuck with Oregon, but I think Washington at home is going to cover, and they do. They won. They lost by 11. We're getting 13. And there's games like that I just know is a good bet, but I don't like to fuck with it. Versus like the Ohio State Michigan under. See, I didn't fuck with the game, but I knew it's cold weather, going to be snow, and Ohio State with the great defense, and Michigan, it's a big rivalry. It's going to be low scoring, and that's what I ended up logically figuring it out. But there's games like that all over the place. My North Texas, all those games. We find Vanderbilt. So it's easy to find 15, 20 games a week. Now, like I said in my story from when I was at the grocery store, when I was like 16, 17 years old, and I go 17-0 on a teaser. I told you I went 22-1 on rivalry week in like the late 70s, early 80s. So you can see I picked 15, 20, 22 games, and that was just college. And then I find it in the pros. I learned the pros. I learned what I'm looking for. I don't use formulas because formulas are fucked. Because the problem with formulas, okay, I'm going to do analytics, I'm going to do algorithms, whatever the fuck you're going to do. How do you grade the values? The only thing I use the numbers for is to say, oh, if I look at last 5, Green Bay's got a 15 defense. If I look at the last 5, Washington goes from a 27 defense for the whole year to 34 the last 5. So their defense is falling apart, which then lets me bet Denver looking at a 34 defense. But you find these games, I've already picked the first 4. I was 3-1 on 3-0 Thursday, lose to Philly. I've already got 4 or 5 games. I'm already picking 10 games in the pros. I do that every week. But you got to understand, you got to bet a little smaller, and we're going to win in volume. We're going to pick 10 games and win, let's say 7 of them. So we're going to have 3 losers, which we know, and that's why I tell you to stick to your money management. So if you've got a $5,000 bankroll, you're probably betting with me. You're starting out maybe 50 a game, and then as I learn the teams and we figure it out, we go up to 100, 150 a game. And then the locks by now, it's a 25 unit lock. I might go 300 or 400 on it, but it's based on your bankroll, and the goal is to build the bankroll. How many analytic people even know what a bankroll is? So I got this idiot. He's sitting there. Well, I trapped the game live, so it means I bet both teams, and I win one and I lose, and I don't lose, and you don't win either. And you don't know what to do. You're just looking at numbers. So this is why you do. So if I know I'm going to go 75%, and I do it every year, sometimes 80, it gets confusing. Like, I don't know what to do with Indy and New England, how much I trust them, and I don't. Holmes, he's a dog, we're going to bet him. So you get games like that. But that's the key to it is looking at that and figuring out the teams. Then if it's a good spread, I bet it. If it's a good total, I bet it. So I've got all that down to a science over doing this since 1977. Well, the teaser part. So that's what, 87, 97, 07, 17. It's almost 50 years of doing that. So don't tell me I don't know what I'm doing, and don't tell me that you want to use analytics or formulas. A guy came here and he's looking at formulas. Can we do formula? You can't do formulas on it. And I see in the things on Google, there's formulas, right? Some people win it for. That's bullshit. You can't use formulas to do this. How do you rank a team? Like, okay, Philadelphia's lost 2 in a row. How do you rank that in a formula? Now they're on a 2-game losing streak. They have to win. Where does the have to win come into a formula? And how can you accurately predict that? It still goes down to who are they playing and what's the point spread. Yes, there's more incentive for Philly to come back. The way Jalen Hurts, he's terrible. He's as bad as Lamar. These guys are jokes. Oh, yeah. Jalen Hurts played at Alabama. Oh, yeah. Okay, it's a system. And even then, he got replaced by Tagovailoa, who's terrible, right? So that's really what you're thinking is you're learning the teams. That's the key concept. That's my thesis. Understand the team. And then when you get them in an advance, the teaser, like they'll say, well, we're looking at the line movements. He's telling me, well, it's this closed line value or something, CLV. I looked at it and I laughed my ass off. I go, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. So the line opens at 10 and then it closes at 11. What does that tell you? Or 12? What does that tell you? It doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't change your bet unless it went from 10 to 8 and I wanted to go down to 2. Right? Then it'll help. But again, we're in teasers, so we don't care about the opening and closing of lines, the opening line, closing line. And when I see a bad opening line, we take advantage of it. How often do I email you or tell you on Monday, I've already bet this weekend because this is the line I like. So let's say the over 60 and it ends up at 66 on Saturday when the game is in college. I already knew what I wanted. I already bet it at 60 and the line closed at 66. What does that tell you? Maybe I don't bet it at 66, but I got it at 60 and I've done that. How often do we do it with Georgia unders? I mean, it would open at 54 and end up down at 50. Oh, I knew what I wanted. I bet it at 54. We won. What is the big deal about it? So it's very hard to use statistics to predict because you have to come up with variables that change all the time. Injuries, wind. Here we got Cleveland, Frisco. We got snow and cold and Prime Junior. How do you forecast Prime Junior into it? We know he sucks, but how does that go into the formula? Oh, Prime Junior's playing. How do you figure out Max Brosmer is playing for Minnesota? We know this because we know football, and I know the guy, and I know the team, and I know what's going to happen. He ain't going to do shit against a good Seattle defense. Or if he was playing Houston, they'd get shut out. So you know the team. They're an A team, they're a Z team, or an over and under. That's why I do it. And that's why you can easily come up with 10, 15 picks. And I'm consistently going 10-2 in the pros, 8-1 in the pros, just about every week. I have my 1 week, I go maybe 7-5. I get fooled, or I don't have good matchups. But the way I do it is foolproof, right? Does the Minnesota Seattle under make sense? Two good defenses. You got a rookie quarterback who sucked in the Big Ten. Anyway, this is like um, Davis Mills as your quarterback, right? He sucked at Stanford. What do you think he's going to do in the pros? So that's what you got here. A guy, a good quarterback. They can't leave the playbook wide open. The guy can't run all the plays, so you're gonna be a little. He'll throw to Jefferson when he can. They'll run it more, little screens, and it's just going to be longer drives, and it's going to be lower scoring. And Seattle, with a great defense, they'll be lucky to score touchdowns. So understanding the team makes this game, what should be an easy pick, right? So logically, is the pick good? Yeah, you can't argue to go over in this game, not with good defenses and a backup quarterback, a third string quarterback. So you take advantage of that. That's why you play it under. You're taking advantage of it. So that's my point. But if you're dealing with just numbers, analytics or algorithms or whatever the fuck you want to call it, how do you come up with the number? What do you plug in? It's all random. It's all variable, and you're missing the point. So he's not betting the Minnesota Seattle game. Why? Why aren't you betting the game? This should be your lock of the day, the under. Why aren't you betting it? Well, I don't like the number. I don't like this. Take advantage of this third string quarterback playing. Take advantage of Prime Junior playing. I don't like the game, so I throw it out. Those are the games you should be betting. So he tells me I don't understand because I don't use formulas, and I tell him go fuck off. I don't want to use formula. It's like teaching Austrian economics the way I teach it to you guys. Do you ever see me with a chart or a graph or any of that bullshit that the Keynesians do? You ever take an economics class in school and it's chart and quantity and price and this and that, and who the fuck knows what they're talking about? I simply do it like this. Here's the market, here's the price, and if you're up here, you're not going to sell. If you're down here, you need to come up. Oh, that's my chart, right? Oh my God, it's so hard to follow. I don't use those because I know they don't work. They're bullshit. You've got to be able to visually see what's going on and learn what variables are important and which ones are bullshit. Doing this teasers since 77, I think I have a pretty good idea what to do. So I know even when I was in college in the 80s, you should see my notebook. I wonder if I have that. Let's see. So this is my notebook. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Now let me see. That was baseball. And that was probably current. Anyway, I got notebooks when I went to college. Let's see if this one has it. And most of it is my football picks. No, that's baseball. That's current baseball. I'll look through some of my other folders. But I basically have I would list out all my games. Okay. No, don't have it here. I would basically list out all my games. I kind of do it here. This is a couple weeks ago. So I list out all my games here, and then I pick them. Oh, look, I only came up with 15 games on the far left, or the far this side here, and then I go and I pick 75% of them. And so people don't understand, like the game you find, you put in multiple teasers, so it takes that all out. So I really have to pick less winners because I found the game. So let's say we put Seattle under in 3 teasers today. Well, I only have to come up with, instead of having 6 picks to do, I only need like 4. Or I can put it with, let's say I put it with Cincinnati, Baltimore over Seattle, and then Seattle with Green Bay, and then Seattle with, Green Bay again. Well, usually I make it for more money. So I only need, let's just take that example: Seattle, Green Bay, and Seattle, uh, Cincinnati over. I'm only picking 3 teams, which makes my odds even greater than trying to pick 4 teams in a teaser. But you really have to understand teasers. And I just want you to understand that. And especially if my competition is some idiot doing statistics, I'll win that 100 times out of 100. You can't use statistics on me. I know they won't work. And if you're trying to compare your statistics to the way I pick, I'll beat you every single time, every week. I can come up with, this guy, well, I pay 2 or 3 games a week. Oh, I play 10. So I show them my ticket that I just showed you, and I go, oh, you can't pick 10 games a week. Well, I was 9-1, losing by half a point 2 weeks ago. I'm going to be 9-1 this week. What the fuck you talking about? I do it every week. I can find 10 games very easily because I know what I'm looking for. I know the key to figuring out the outcome, and it's the quarterback, the coach, the defense. I bet Alabama because of DeBoer, and the quarterback was okay, and then I was betting against Auburn's bad quarterback, and the coach was fired. So yeah, you can figure out what's going to go on. Every once in a while you lose, but I took like Washington over Oregon, and they lost, but they covered. Again, I like the coach, and the quarterback at Washington's good, but he's young, and they're missing a few players. They're good, but they're not up there. They're not as strong as I thought they were going to be. The quarterback's okay, but not as strong as I thought. Too much looking around. Again, these running type of quarterbacks who can pass, they don't know what to look for, so they get sacked a lot, or they run around like a chicken with their head cut off. All right, so that's my thesis versus a statistic thesis. They look at statistics and probability and outcome, and okay, how do you prepare when you got Prime Junior? How does that change your formula? How does Philadelphia, off of 2 losses, now need a win, change your formula? For me, I know what to look for. Depending on who they're playing in the point spread, I'm going to take them, but I might not take them just because they got 2 losses, depending on who they play, right? You blew the lead to Dallas, and then to lose to Chicago because they ran it down your throat. Okay, who does Philly, who do they play now? You're praying for Washington. So if Philly plays Washington and they're laying 10, that's a lot. We're going to lock Philly because they'll be able to move the ball on Washington all over the place. Washington doesn't have a quarterback. That's how you do it. It depends on the matchup and the point spread, and who they're playing determines if you're playing it. There's something wrong with them, but if they get an easy defense like Washington, that's fine. So the key is, what kind of defense are you playing? So in the Baltimore-Cincinnati game, I had Cincinnati with the 36 defense, and Baltimore only put up 14 points. I'm like, well, okay, wait a minute. Now, a lot of that might have been Joe Burrow moving the ball, keeping the defense off the field. There's that. Arizona today at 31 defense. Miami's down to a 19 defense. Houston, 19 defense. Tennessee, 28 defense. Minnesota with the 27. So Seattle should be able to move the ball on them. I just don't think Minnesota is going to do anything. And then Washington went from a 27 defense to a 34 defense. That's why I took Denver, right? That's the point. What are you looking for? You got to look for something. You have to have a reason to bet the game. Statistics is not a reason to bet the game. Well, if something happens to fall, I can bet it. Otherwise, I can't bet it. Well, you don't know what you're doing if you're using statistics. I'm just giving you the Minnesota game as a gift saying, look, you got a third string quarterback who sucks, but I know he sucks because you know how I watch college quarterbacks. So you're not getting anything from Minnesota today. And, Seattle, good deep, Minnesota, good defense. So it should be a low scoring game. That's how you analyze it. I don't fuck with the 12s and down to 6. Now, if Seattle was 7 or 8, I would take Seattle. That would be a lock going down to 1 or 2. But I got 12. I'm not locking 6. It's the NFL. They'll win by 10. You watch. So you go to the over-unders, and that's why I do a lot of over-unders. It's not hard to figure out over-unders. That's Seattle under, boom. We had KC, Dallas over. We had Cincinnati, Baltimore over. It wasn't hard to figure out. Oh, Joe Burrow, no defense. Yeah, it should be high scoring, but Cincinnati got the 32 and not Baltimore. But that's what you're looking for. So when we look next week, Alabama, Georgia, we don't need statistics to figure it out because I doubt statistics could figure it out. I can look at the defenses. We know Alabama beats Georgia every time except for one. They're like 9-1. But it depends who's favored. If Alabama's favored, I'm betting Georgia. Georgia's favored, I might bet Alabama. It might be a tease the dog moment. Well, where's that on your chart, on your statistics, on your whatever you call it? Where's that? And then this closing line value, what the fuck does that mean? Well, let's say Georgia opens -3 and then it goes to -5. What does that mean? Am I going to bet Alabama or Georgia? I mean, what does it tell me? It doesn't tell me anything. I'm betting the game based on it's probably tease the dog, right? Georgia been playing well. I like the way they beat Texas, and then they played a tough game with Georgia Tech. Alabama struggled with Auburn's defense, apparently better than Georgia's defense. So I think Georgia will put it up a notch because this is a championship game. Or this is to win the SEC and then get into the playoffs. And that's the key here. So that's how you got to understand the game and understand the teams and the coach and the quarterback and the defense and know how the game's going to be played and how it's going to end. So if you just understand the teams and you understand the games, you don't need statistics, won't help you here. What are they going to tell you? What could a statistic probably, the score's going to be 21-20 Alabama? Or, it can't be, Alabama's going to win 42-0. Yeah, then you got bad statistics. But if you know the team, then it's simply a tease the dog game, right? I'll make that our free play next week. Alabama, Georgia. I don't know what the line is. I'm assuming Alabama by 3. And that was the other thing I talked to this guy about. I says, Dallas should be favored in Detroit. And he wants to bet me as he's looking at the line going, well, no, Detroit will be 3. And he's looking at the line, and I'm not an idiot. And I go, well, I'm saying what the line should be. What the real line should be in the game is Dallas -3. What the line is Detroit -3. So I already love Dallas next week because they're the dog. You tell me Detroit's going to beat Dallas, and they play those 5 defensive linemen, and they're running the ball, and Dak's decent, and who's going to stop CD Lamb, and who's going to stop the other guy, whatever his name is. Why do I drop my celery? It always goes like 20 feet away. Who, George, I want to say George Patton. They're a receiver. Anyway, you got 3 to 4 inches so far. Well, where are you, Prophet? Are you in Montreal or are you in LA? I thought you were in LA looking up Laker tickets. So if you're still in Montreal, yeah, you'll get snow. Sure. Anyway, you have to look at the game and predict the score. I can do that. If you're using statistics to do it, forget about it because there's too many variables, as I say, to put into statistics, and you don't even know if they're accurate. So you can put in the statistic, Philadelphia off of 2 losses. How do you feed that in the formula? And how do you know it's accurate? It's about who they're playing. It's about the matchup of the game and the point spread. That's how you pick. And determining what the team is how you understand it. That's how I can pick 10 games, 15 games a weekend as I do between college and pro. My Teaserking, as you'll see it next week, it's huge. Still here for now? Okay. Um, yeah, I mean that's the whole point. You're um, you're figuring out the matchup based on understanding and analyzing the teams, right? I do it in baseball. I do it and mostly in football. Baseball is very hard because it's all averages. Here, it's not averages. I know, we know Mahomes. We don't need an average for him. Um, we do look at touchdowns to interceptions a little bit, some stats. The only stat I really use is teaser stats, home favorite, home dog. Like I'm saying here, Denver's 27-2 in the teaser. But that's a blatant statistic that I'm using to help me pick the game. It doesn't automatically mean I'm taking Denver or the Giants play against road dogs 7-0. Well, it doesn't mean I'm taking New England. It's just another how's their Giants personality when they go on the road as a dog? Oh, they normally you can bet against it and win. Okay. That's the closest I come to statistics, but that's a very good statistic that helps you understand how the team will play, which is what we're looking for. So I don't like this closing line value. I told the guy right to his face, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. What does it mean? What what does it mean that the line changed from it went from -3 to -6? What does that tell you? The betting's going on that. That doesn't help you. How does that help you? Like I say, I was in Vegas for the Michigan Ohio State game 4 or 5 years ago, and there was Fresno State, San Jose State. Fresno State's laying 7 with I think David Carr or Derek Carr, whatever one of the cars, and it went from 7 to 11. When I woke up Saturday morning, it was 11. How did that help me? They lost the game. San Jose State beat them straight up. How did that help me? Was I going to take San Jose State because I'm getting 11? I mean, is that what the point is? So I'm really sitting there going, I don't get how that, if anything, it hurt me because I like Fresno State, -7. I bet it. And then it goes to 11. So I made a few more bets on the card. The cards don't change. It was -7. I went -1. But how did that help me? How does half of these lines, San Diego went from 9.5 to 10. Well, how does that help you? You've already determined the bet. You've already looked at the score and you already said, well, it's probably an under. I don't give a shit about the 10. Unless it goes down to 7, then I would take San Diego -1. But it's a 10. I'm not laying 4. Or Seattle went from 10 to 12. How does that help me? It doesn't help. But what kind of value is it? It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. It sounds like AI and analytics and all that bullshit. Or let's go for it on 4th down. That's what it sounds like. And we all know how good that works. Oh, let's go for 2. Yeah, Philadelphia goes for 2. They're down 9 instead of going for 1 and getting down 8. Now they don't get it and they're still down 9. Oh, that really helped. I mean, this is just pure stupidity. All right. So anyway, that's how I do it. I learn and understand the team, which is critical, and then we look at the matchup and then we look at the spread and when it's good, that. And I find, like I said, I just showed you 10 teams, a 10-team teaser. I'm going to go 9-1 again. And I went 9-1 2 weeks ago, I think. Last week I was like 7-3. I had a terrible week. That's a terrible week for me. So for me to go 75% is easy. I do it all the time, but it's based on, that's why I pick 20 games and try to get 15 right. That's the idea. I know I'm going to lose a few. as our one friend said, "Oh, you cost me because that one game lost. It wasn't even the lock which won." And so he's bitching. I go, "But that's the point. You're playing. You're trying to hit 7 out of 10." And so there's obviously three losers in it. That's why you don't bet a lot on one in particular, even if it's the lock. You bet a little bit more, but if you got a $5,000 bankroll, you're not going to bet 200, 200, 200. Oh, here's the lock. I'm going to go 800. It wasn't even a lock. It was just another game that he bet a lot on. And I'm like, well, you fucking don't, you gotta understand me. I do go 75% on my picks, which I put in multiple teasers and I win. And that's why I win, because I know I'm going to pick 7 out of 10 because of the way I understand the teams and my thesis. And it works every year. It's worked every year. 1977. I mean, oh, let's bet on Joe Montana. Oh, there's Lawrence Taylor. Oh, the 85 Bears. How about them? And you just see the team, you figure them out, and then you pound it. And I had in that Miami Dan Marino game when the Bears lost their only game of the year, I had Miami in the game because I knew the matchup. You cannot blitz Marino. He's going to eat your lunch. You have to play him like Joe Paterno. You rush two and you play everybody else in coverage. That's how Penn State beat Pitt and Marino. I remember that game. It was in the 80s. He rushed two guys the whole game. He rushed two and then nine in coverage. Or look at how how Penn State beat Miami Hurricanes in that one game with Gino or whatchamacallit, not Gino Toretta, the other guy. They came in the desert in the Army fatigues, and they lost. He rushed two or three guys and had a 9-man zone. That's how you beat these guys. So when you got into, you saw Jimmy Johnson, you just bet on him. Wherever he went, he covered. But you just knew the team. So you adjust as it goes and you read the teams, you figure them out. And I knew the Tony Dorsett Pitt team, and I knew Marino, and I knew Montana. Oh, they get Rice. Yeah, they're going to lose. And the Giants with Lawrence Taylor. I mean, how many times do you bet that game under? And so you just see who the stud is and you just bet them. And that's all it is. And then you figure the teams out. And even when the Niners, remember that Monday night game, the Niners and the Giants, and they played a 10-10 game. And I think it was 10-9 or 13-10 or something like that. Even with Montana, couldn't do anything against Lawrence Taylor. I think they won 10-7 or 10-3 or 13-10 or something like that. That was the 1990 year, and they lost in the championship game thanks to the Roger Craig fumble, motherfucker. But anyway, and then you get them in the Super Bowls and you just bet them. So you learn the team and the players, and that's what you keep betting on. And it's just a very easy thesis. You got to watch the injuries. Oh, Montana's out. I'm not betting on San Francisco. Lawrence Taylor's out. I'm not betting him. But if he's playing, I'm betting the under in the games. And it's like just winner, winner, winner. Very simple. I don't need statistics. And I find people that use it, like the Keynesians trying to explain economics. It's bullshit. You can't learn from it. All right. Any questions on my thesis here? I'm picking 10, 12 games in order to pick 75%. So to keep it simple, if I pick 10 games, I'm going to have 7.5 winners and 2.5 losers. So if we go 20, I'll pick. That means I got to go 15 and 5, and I do that constantly because most of my teams are good plays. Sometimes you get the turnovers. We lost Texas A&M because Texas A&M had the ball 5 minutes left at the 10-yard line, kick a field goal, we win the over, and he throws an interception. All right, it's Marcel Reed, gets the ball back, does it again. Game's over, we lose by 1, and apparently in my ticket I win. I didn't realize that. It was 43.5, but that's the key to it. You're doing, and then you just pick a bunch of those, and most of them win. There's a few with the turnover. I only lose is because of turnovers or injury, something that happens that it's very hard to predict turnovers, right? And that's it. So if you have questions, comments, please let me know. Still here for now. Well, okay, Prophet. The guy upstairs, he's constantly yelling at his girlfriend. It's embarrassing. All right, let's see. I don't like when Andy Scheckman does this and he says US silver banned soon. I don't know what he's talking about. And he really doesn't discuss it in the video. He does a lot of they put titles in, but they don't talk about it. I'll show you this one. China's silver vault. I think I talked about it.
You said it was too expensive, so for Black Friday, we answered 61% off our functional coffee. Not enough?
New all-time high. All right, let's get right into it. We're going to explore a scenario unfolding right.
Okay, I don't know who this girl is. We'll listen. She's talking about the Shanghai silver vaults being empty. The demand's huge. The supply's out. What does that mean? Prices going up. Right now, it's priced in COMEX paper, but nobody can get it, so that price has to go up because you can't price control something where there's demand is huge and the supply is very limited, if not gone. So that's good for us because then people will need silver and the price has to go up. So this isn't like an opinion. This is what's happening. So I show you this because this is what's we're getting the info that tells us, hey, in China, which we don't know about, they're out. So this is how we get that information.
In late 2025, that could completely upend the global silver market. We're talking about China, the world's single biggest buyer of physical silver, and they're consuming it at a pace that is just, well, it's draining their most important vaults. And this drain is happening at a rate that we haven't seen in over a decade. This isn't just some future possibility, it's a countdown. And it's a countdown based on very real, very current data. So let's walk through exactly what this looks like. So here it is. This is the number that should have absolutely everyone's attention. 39 million. That's it. As of today, November 30th, 2025, that is all the silver that's left in the combined stockpiles in Shanghai.
These are
Now,
ounces,
to give you some
not
context, to really understand how small that number is, global industry alone chews through almost 2 million ounces of silver every single day. So 39 million ounces isn't just a low number. It represents just a few weeks of supply in what is arguably the most critical physical hub on the entire planet. This is the big, flashing red light on the dashboard of the entire silver market. And let's be crystal clear about what we're talking about here. This isn't some abstract number on a spreadsheet representing a promise of silver. This isn't paper. We're not talking about financial derivatives or ETFs. No. This is the real deal. This is the actual physical metal that you can hold in your hand, available in the world's most important physical market. When a factory in China needs silver to build solar panels or to put into the electronics of an electric vehicle, this is the stockpile they draw from. And as you can see, the well is getting dangerously, terrifyingly close to running completely dry. Okay, but here's where it gets really, really crazy. It's the speed. The sheer velocity of this drain is what's so alarming. We are seeing days where 3% of the entire remaining stockpile just vanishes, gone in a single day. Think about that. This isn't a slow dripping faucet, folks. This is a fire hose. Daily bleed rate this high is completely and totally unsustainable, and it signals that behind the scenes there's a frantic, desperate scramble for physical metal. So you do the math, right? The timeline here is what's crucial. If you keep pulling silver out at anything close to this pace, the calculation becomes terrifyingly simple. The vaults could be functionally empty, as in no deliverable silver left by the middle of December 2025. We're not talking about next year or even next quarter. We are talking about a matter of weeks. This is setting the stage for a potential price event that could be truly historic. So this is the multi-billion-dollar question we all have to ask ourselves, isn't it? What happens when the music finally stops? What happens when a massive electronics factory, a company that is crucial to the global supply chain, places a huge order for physical silver and the exchange comes back and says, sorry, we have no metal to deliver? This isn't some theoretical exercise anymore. It points to a global physical squeeze that could make past events, even the dramatic run-up we saw in 2011, look like a small tremor before the main earthquake. Okay, so how on earth did we get to this point?
This situation didn't just pop up overnight, that's for sure. To really understand.
Okay, we don't care about that. So what this sounds like is the Titanic, right? This is people going into panic mode because they realize this ship's about to sink. And so what do? They swim off, they jumped in, they try to get on the lifeboat. And that's what's happening now. As silver's gone and people need silver, they don't say they can't get it. What they say is, well, you know that $57 an ounce silver? Yeah, it's going to cost you about 250 for silver because we're out and we have to buy it. And nobody's going to give it to us at 57. This is the problem with the whole bullshit Ponzi scheme, Madoff, COMEX. Instead of just selling the physical silver on COMEX at market prices, where you wouldn't run out because the price would just keep going up. When you try to price fix it, what's happening? Everybody wants it at that price because of the demand. Now, I'm not into this Tomahawk missile bullshit and this solar panel bullshit. It's money. That's why people want silver. It's money. And as gold gets very expensive, silver gets very expensive. But the key is I got to get out of dollars, not for the fucking Tomahawk missiles. I got to get out of dollars, and therefore I got to buy gold. Oh, gold's 4,200. Well, then I got to buy silver. Silver's only 50. Oh, wait, silver's 60. I went to my guy's store Friday, and he still has it, I believe, $2 over spot. And I'm just like inside I'm smiling, but I'm like, well, okay, but I'm not really, I should buy some more. I probably will, but that's why I've already went to the buffet and filled up. And now it's like, oh, we have ribs now. And I'm, oh, yeah, okay, I could have one or two of those. But I've already eaten. I've gotten my gold. I've gotten my silver. So I'm prepared for these prices to go up. I'm not going to panic and start realizing I need to buy it. I taught you that 5 years ago, right? 5 years ago, I told you, hey, $3,000 gold. Nobody believed me. I'm calling $100. I probably should watch one of those videos, but I was probably calling for $100 or $200 silver. And, it's at least that. So that's kind of where it's at. It's, so that's where we're at with it. It's, very, very limited, very, very low supply. There's nothing left, right? And a lot of the banks have it in their vaults, so it's not active, right? Now, it's in there until it hits a higher price. And when it hits a higher price, then I'll sell you some. I'm not selling you at $50. Like I told you the story when I went into the gold store a couple of years ago. We need eagles. I'll give you 2,000 an ounce for the eagle. So it must have been 1900. And I says, never. No chance. Did you say 20,000? Yeah. At that point, I'll release some gold. And that's the whole thing. That's what I'm doing. I'm not selling any at 4,000. This is not profit taking. This is holding it because you're holding, let's say you buy silver at 57. You bought it at 57, it's going to 500. Why would you sell it at 57? Why would you sell it at 100? And even the 500 is conservative. With all this demand and no supply, it's not like they won't give them to them. They're going to give it to them at a higher price. That's how this works. It's not like the gold and silver is gone and it's been eaten and there's no more left and therefore it's gone. It's still there, but it's in vaults. It's in safes. It's in Egon's safe in the mountains. So I'll pull it out at this price. This price would be fair. But again, I don't want to get back into this. And it's got to be a real high price. And I got to get rid of those dollars. What am I going to do if I sell 10 ounces of gold at $500 and I get 5,000? What am I going to do with the 5,000? So unless I'm paying a bill or going on a vacation and spending it quickly, I don't want to be caught with it because the longer I have it, the less it's worth. So we're got to get out of it. And that's really the whole key to it. And it's just basic economics. It's basic. It's not used up. The gold and silver is here. It's just we bought it cheap because we knew it was going up, and we're not going to get rid of it until it's a higher price. And these Tomahawk missile people or the solar panel people, or I guess AI needs silver. Well, use a different material. Silver is not indestructible like gold is. They're not using gold because it's very expensive. So go to copper, go to nickel, go to a different metal. Don't say you have to use silver. Bullshit. You can go use nickel, copper, whatever you got to use that. I mean, they use what, palladium or platinum on certain things until it got too expensive. Well, silver's getting too expensive. You got to go to nickel, go to copper. It's other minerals. Stop using precious metals and keeping the price down. But so the U.S. has been keeping the price down for the defense contractors. Let's keep it simple, right? They want to build missiles and weapons, and they need silver. Okay. But now the silver is more expensive. Well, no, keep the price down. Keep doing it. Yeah, it doesn't work that way, Charlie, because this is not a U.S. thing. This is a world thing. You got China and Russia and India and Saudi Arabia and all the BRICS countries and half of Eastern Europe involved buying gold and silver. So the price is not just set by the U.S. This is not a U.S. gold. This is the world gold price. And I don't get why the eagle is worth more than the Cougar or maple leaf. It's all an ounce of gold. What does it matter? So keep those. They'll be worth more as people start selling their eagles, and depending on what country you're in. Like Pat's in Singapore, he can probably sell any of them for the same because it's gold, right? I got an ounce of gold. Oh, okay, it's going for 4,200 US. What's it going in Russia? What's it going for in Singapore and Hong Kong and China? Different amounts because the currencies are all fucked up. So it's going to be interesting because as the dollar goes out, all the currencies will go out unless they're backed by gold, and the value of the currency will be the gold. So what she's saying here is the vaults are empty. If somebody comes with it, what's going to happen? They'll buy the silver, but it will be more expensive. It's very simple. It's like, because again, it's not gone. It's sitting in somebody's vault or safe or Egon's. That's where the gold and silver is. So it's still there. It's just not as, it's a little bit different, as they're acting as if it's gone, that it's been used up. But you can't use up gold and silver. If it's in coins, you can't use it up. All right. So that's all I need from this girl, just to say, hey, it's empty. If you ever get a chance to watch this girl, Carolina Protensky, play the violin, she's incredible. She's very she's very good at it, very charismatic. You'll enjoy that. Okay, I got to ask this question. This is for my friend, Ron. On cholesterol. So I am going to show you this video. Okay. I've shown you this before. I remember showing it to Bobby. The number one most dangerous cholesterol lie you must know. You need to understand.
First ingredient, peanut.
You need
One
cholesterol.
Of the worst, it's not a nut at all. Raisins, they're just pure sugar. If you want,
There's a mixture of essential. Hello, health champions.
Okay, so this is our doctor that we watch. So it's not me giving you this. I'm watching him giving you this. So it's him giving you this. This is on cholesterol. Cholesterol is very helpful. It's not hurtful. And when the doctor reads it, it's all bullshit. And when they give you these drugs for it, it hurts you. You do not want it. Just stop with the sugar and the carbs and the high fructose corn syrup. That's the key to it. Okay. So pay attention.
Today we're going to talk about the number one most dangerous cholesterol lie you must know. So for several generations, we have been told that cholesterol causes heart disease. And this is arguably the number one most damaging oversimplification in modern medicine. And as a result, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people around the world are taking statin medications, which one thing that they do, one mechanism, is that they reduce the energy production in the mitochondria, and therefore they rob the cells of energy. And the ones that get hurt the most are the ones that use the most energy. And that would be your brain, your heart, your liver, and your kidneys. And one of the biggest problems with the statin medications, or any medication, is that when they prescribe them to people, they say, take this will fix the problem. But it doesn't fix the problem. It doesn't make anything work better. It doesn't restore any sort of balance. It just suppresses a symptom. It suppresses something in the body. So now it's masking the real root causes and allowing those imbalances to continue to get worse. And because people are told that the pill will fix the problem, people are not so likely to make changes for themselves. So we have to change the conversation on cholesterol. We have to understand that it's not the enemy. It's not a toxin. It is something essential that your body needs, and it manufactures the vast majority of the cholesterol that the body uses. So just a quick list of a few things it does. It's a hormone precursor for the steroid hormones such as testosterone, estrogen, and cortisol. Cholesterol is a building block for vitamin D, and we are just discovering year after year how important vitamin D is. Every year, there's some new discoveries. So your immune system and calcium metabolism and 100 different things depend on vitamin D. And it is critical for your cell membranes. Every cell in your body has an outer shell. It's a lipid bilayer made up of fat, and there's a mixture of essential fatty acids and saturated fatty acids and cholesterol in there. So in that membrane, there's about 20 to 25% cholesterol. And when we have the right mix of these different types of fats, now we get a balance between the membrane being fluid and the membrane having a certain stability. Cholesterol is also critical for the myelin sheath, and myelin is in your nervous system. It's a waxy covering that surrounds all your nerve fibers, and it allows the electrical impulses to travel accurately and quickly to where they need to go. And they act like insulation. When the myelin starts to break down, we can get a devastating disease called multiple sclerosis, which is when these signals aren't separated and we can start getting some short circuits in the nervous system. Cholesterol is also one of the main components of bile acids, which allow us to digest and emulsify fats. And in doing that, it allows us to properly absorb the essential fatty acids, but also the fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. So cholesterol is something that is absolutely normal. It is something that your body has to have. It is something that your body manufactures. But there's quite an interesting story behind what we consider normal cholesterol and how that has changed through the years. So prior to the 1980s, anything below 300 in total cholesterol was considered normal. In fact, there was hardly any cutoff at all because you had to get way over 300 before they considered that high or before anyone sort of paid attention and considered it a problem. But then in 1987, the first statin medication, the first cholesterol lowering medication, was approved. And the very same year, wasn't that nice of them to come out with the NCEP, and this was the first version, the National Cholesterol Education Program. Wasn't that nice of the government to come out and start educating the public on cholesterol the very same year that the first medication was available? Well, I don't think it was a coincidence. I think that is something called lobbying, where they use political pressure. They try to influence decision makers to do their bidding. And now pretty much overnight, normal cholesterol went from 300 down to 200. So anything under 200 now was desirable. And if you were between 200 and 239, now that was considered borderline high, and anything over 240 was considered high. But not only did they start prescribing medication for people over 240, because a lot of doctors, a lot of people started getting scared, and they said, well, if I'm borderline high, then we should probably take this pill anyway. And then as we go into the 1990s, now statin medication become mainstream, and we see a continued increase in the influence of big pharma, of the pharmaceutical companies making statin medications. But then in 1993, we get the second version of the NCEP. And they don't change the guidelines, the cutoffs for the total cholesterol. They remain where they used to be, but they're changing the focus, and they're starting to look more closely at the LDL, the low-density lipoproteins, which, of course, is what the...
If you're turning 65 or beyond, you're going to want to watch this. There are a lot of people today that are Medicare...
Fuck off.
What the cholesterol-lowering medication go after. They don't go after total per se, they go after the LDL. And now we see that less than 130 is considered desirable. 130 to 159 is borderline high, and anything over 160 is considered high. So what's happening now is that it becomes standard practice to prescribe a statin medication for anyone with a cholesterol over 200 and for an LDL over 130. And they start taking on the mentality, the idea that less is always better. If we can get it to zero, then that would be ideal. And I've had patients come into the office who had a total cholesterol of 115, and they were still on a statin medication to try to drive it lower. So now we get into the 2000s, and we have more and more emphasis on the LDL cholesterol. That becomes more and more of a focus. And in 2001, we get the NCEP of the third edition. And now the LDL that previously used to be good or desirable for anything under 130, now they push it even lower. So now desirable or optimal is less than 100. And between 100 and 129, that was good before, now they call it near optimal. But of course, you understand what's happening. Now, if you're not optimal, they're going to try to prescribe a medication. And the 130 to 159 stays borderline high, and the high is the same, but then they also added one for very high. But the big difference, again, is that what used to be okay, less than 130, is not okay anymore. Now you need to get under 100. But they don't even stop there. They are saying that if you are high risk, if you have certain risk factors going on, now you should try to get your LDL under 70. So what we're seeing with each new iteration of NCEP, as they go from 1, 2 to 3, we see that the limits get lower every time. But this is not based on evidence. There are not studies being conducted that clearly show that people live longer and that people get healthier. And at the same time, these medications are being marketed both to the medical doctors and to the public. But here's something that's really, really sad and really, really frustrated. And I get very upset when I found out, but it's still not all that surprising. In 2004, the JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association, published an article that talked about how the panel for the NCEP had a conflict of interest. And what might that be? And how far reaching might that go, you think? Well, here's the scary fact. 8 out of 9 of the panel members for the NCEP3 had financial ties to the very companies that produced these cholesterol lowering medications. So by lowering the levels each time, they stood to make more money. So what's really happening here is that they're changing the definition of who is sick, who needs medication. So prior to 1987, there were 0 candidates for statin medication. And then as soon as they developed that medication, as soon as it was on the market, now they had to create an audience, a clientele for it. So pretty much overnight in 1987 with the NCEP, they created more than 10 million customers, 10 million potential clients for their medication. And 14 years later with the NCEP3, by pushing the LDL levels low enough, they had 42 million people who were now candidates. And these were people, this was a clientele that they created. And then when they had that little update to the NCEP3, where they said that LDL for high risk need to be below 70, now in one fell swoop, they included 80 to 90% of all the men over 60. And with every update, they created tens of millions of new customers. And these customers, these people, their health hadn't changed overnight. The policies had changed, the rules, the inclusion criteria had changed. So basically what we're talking about is marketing disguised as healthcare. And I mentioned before that there's a lot of power in the lobby. And just to give you an example how far-reaching this is, the number of voting members in Congress is 535. And then they have a certain number of lobbyists who live in the Capitol who try to influence these voting members. So do you think that there's maybe 1 for every 10 members of Congress? Or is there 1 for every? Well, it's actually 1,820 full-time lobbyists working for the pharmaceutical industry. So we're talking 3.4 full-time lobbyists for every single voting member of Congress. And the worst part of all is, like I said initially, that cholesterol per se is not the problem. Cholesterol is not dangerous. In fact, over 50% of heart attacks happen to people who have cholesterol less than 200. And there was a Korean study where they basically checked the entire Korean people over a period of 10 years, everyone who went to the doctor, and they measured their cholesterol, and they found over this 10-year period that the lowest death rate in men over 65 was those who had a cholesterol between 250 and 270. So the cholesterol level that would be the lowest death rate would guarantee you a statin prescription in the United States and in many other countries too. And there are many such studies. One more is a Japanese study that showed that people who had a cholesterol of 220 to 260 lived longer than the people who had cholesterol less than 200. And the reason that over 50% of the heart attacks happen to people who have less than 200 in cholesterol is that those people still have the real root causes, which are insulin resistance, it is low-grade chronic inflammation, and it is oxidative stress. And all of these we often roll together as metabolic syndrome or poor metabolic health. So if we really want to understand what the risk markers are, we need to do different tests. And one thing that we have to start measuring is the LDL particle size. And if we have a lot of small, dense LDL, so LDL per se is not bad. If they're large and fluffy, they are perfectly fine. But if they're small and dense, as in less than 20.5 nanometers, now they are bad. Now they have been damaged. And it's not only that they're bad, but they're pointing to the fact that we have insulin resistance, oxidative stress, and inflammation, because it's these three factors that make the large fluffy LDL particles start shrinking down and become dangerous. Because what these factors do is they oxidize the LDL particles and they glycate the particles. So basically, when we have high blood sugar levels, they stick to proteins on the LDL particle and they damage it. And now because the LDL particles are much smaller, now they have a much easier time. They're much more likely to penetrate the artery wall. So the plaques don't happen inside the blood vessel, they happen inside the wall of the blood vessel. So the LDL particles have to get small so that they can get into.
Eat this one vitamin to rebuild bone density. Best way to regrow bone density, calcium.
Have to get small so that they can get into the muscle, into behind the lining of the wall. And now also, because these LDL particles are damaged, they're not normal anymore. They look like foreign particles. They don't look like healthy, fluffy LDL. And now they attract something called a macrophage, which is part of our immune system. And these macrophages are designed to clean out foreign intruders and cells that don't look right. And then these macrophages, they gobble up the small damaged LDL particles and they become foam cells. And that is what makes up the plaque inside the artery wall. So we have to understand that, yes, it is a little bit about LDL, but it's not all LDL. It is not normal, fluffy, healthy LDL. It is damaged LDL, and what causes the damage is insulin resistance, oxidative stress, and inflammation.
I'll get back to it in a minute. So it's always insulin resistance. It's always high fructose corn syrup, carbs, and sugar that causes all these illnesses. Cholesterol is bullshit. It's just they created a market for it. They kept lowering it. Well, if you have cholesterol that's over 5, you got to take these pills, which will kill you. The pills will kill you, not the cholesterol. This is what's bullshit about it. This is why I share this, so people think, oh, my cholesterol's high. Don't even worry about it. It's got nothing to do with it. It's good for you. As it says, it's you don't want to take the statins. That's what's bad for you. Just like eating the sugar and the carbs and the high fructose corn syrup. That's what's bad for you. So I cut all that shit out. I have a little sugar once in a while, but not a lot. Very little carbs. Maybe if I go get a hamburger, I might eat half the bun. And then and then the sugar and the high fructose corn syrup, I cut all that out, which is every salad dressing and ketchup and barbecue sauce has high fructose corn syrup, and most of the canned foods have high fructose corn syrup. I looked at beets one day. So I got a beet on my salad. I go, oh, this is pretty good. And so I saw the can of beets at the grocery store, high fructose corn syrup. So now if I want a beet, I get the fresh ones from the veggies part, and you boil it in hot water. So you put one in, a lot of water, you put it in, you boil it for about 25 minutes. If you stick the fork in, it gets soft, it's sweet, it's natural, it's fine if you want beets. That's why I get all the vegetables. I just had celery. There's nothing they can do to it. There's no high fructose corn syrup or any of that crap. So that's the problem with everything is the high fructose corn syrup, the sugar, the carbs is tons of sugar. So that's why, but dark chocolate's very good for you because of the cocoa And there's a lot of like vitamin D in it. You want the vitamin D. That's why you take, you try, that's why I eat avocados, right? It's got all that. I can't think of the thing in it, but what you see me eating here are the avocados, or I just had celery, or the pita bread. They're all very healthy. Well, the pita bread is not great, but it gives me something. But it's all very healthy. If I have a steak, it's healthy. The fat's fine. What you don't want to eat is the sugar, right? You stay away from the sugar as best you can. That's why I put the French dressing. Ken's salad dressing has no high fructose corn syrup. That's why I use it. And if I go to the barbecue place, I take it with me. And we talk gold and silver, so the owner knows me. He doesn't have a problem with me bringing my own salad dressing, which doesn't have high fructose corn syrup in it. And I put it on my ribs and my chicken and my, if I get potatoes or baked potato or fries, and that's it. So if you don't kill yourself putting bad shit in, you're healthy. Very simple. So it's interesting how they created this market, though, right? It's like creating a market for electric vehicles. They try to do that. No, you couldn't create one. But in here, they're going to scare you. Oh, this is scary. This is scary. Oh, you're going to have a heart attack and die because your cholesterol's high. Oh, I better take the statin. So they created the market because you go to the doctor who tells you a cholesterol test. Did he do the fluffy cholesterol versus the not fluffy? Now they created LDL. I mean, all this shit, bullshit. That's why I very rarely go to a doctor. And that's why I do 90-hour fasts. I mean, it's like that'll keep me healthy more than any pill I can take, because that's good for me. The medication's not good for you. The drugs, the cigarettes, the alcohol, it's all poison in your body. Your body has to fight to get that out. And then it's got to get back to cleaning you up, who you are. Anyway, that's kind of what's going on. So let's see a little bit more of our doc. Very good. But I'm just reiterating what he's saying, but I can't explain it as much because he's the one who did it. And if I get back to football, I can explain why I bet football and who to take. I can't, but if you learn it from a teacher, you can't. You have to, in football, you have to come up with your own method, and that's what you use, and then you know how to use it. And in gold, I could just explain the silver, right? But that's from learning. I had to learn the subject, but I did it on my own, basically. But then it just becomes, if there's demand and there's no supply, the price has to go up. That's just logic. It's economics, but it's logic, right? I want this, and there isn't any, then I'll pay more because I want it. Obviously, the mantle cars. I want a mantle car that's in good shape. Well, there's not a lot of them, so you're going to pay more for it. Okay, well, if you want one, you pay more because they're limited. So it all comes back. All right, a little bit more.
And the statin medication are not going to do anything to reverse those. So when you get that test that counts the LDL particles and the size of them, it's very different than the test that measures how many milligrams of LDL you have. So when you get the test that counts, now you want to find out the size and the number of LDL particles. And ideally, your total count should be less than 1,000, but that's not so super important because you could still be healthy and have 1,500 or even 2,000. But what's more important is the percentage of small LDL particles. And in my opinion, that should be less than 20% of the total LDL particles should be small, should be less than 20.5 nanometers. And why is that? Because if that percentage is higher, and very often we'll see 50% or 60% that are small, that means the reason that the percentage is so high is that you have a lot of damaged particles and you have a lot of insulin resistance, oxidative stress, and inflammation. But remember how we said that the statin medication specifically reduces LDL. So we should be taken care of here, right?
Breaking news. The number one cause of heart attacks and strokes isn't hypertension. It isn't cholesterol. Too much red.
Care of here, right? Well, not really, because the statin medication works two ways. And the first is that it interferes with a pathway where the body makes cholesterol. So by interfering in that pathway, we're going to reduce the production. We're going to not be able to make as much LDL cholesterol. But the LDL that we manufacture, that is the fluffy LDL. That's the large normal LDL before it gets damaged. But then the second way that the medication works is it increases the number of LDL receptors on the liver. So we're going to reabsorb more also. So there's two ways we lower the LDL cholesterol, but in both cases, we're making less and we're reabsorbing more of the fluffy, of the normal LDL. But here's the problem, that the small LDL, the damaged LDL, which is the harmful one that we're really trying to get rid of. Remember how I said that the macrophages go after that LDL because it's altered. It's not recognized by these receptors anymore. The receptors can't pull in the bad small LDL, but it only pulls in the large and fluffy. So the small LDL is not affected. So when we run our blood test, if we just do the usual test, the standard test, it's going to show a dramatically lower level of LDL in terms of milligrams per deciliter. But if we also run the more sophisticated test and measure the particles, now we're going to see that the number of small LDL does not go down. And in fact, the percentage is going up because we're lowering the number of fluffy LDL, but we're not doing anything to reduce the small particles because we still have the inflammation, we still have the oxidative stress, and we still have the insulin resistance. And therefore, all the particles still keep getting damaged. But even on the standard test, there are a few things that we really want to pay attention to. And one is total cholesterol to HDL cholesterol ratio. And it's not my favorite, but it's still very useful. So for example, if your total cholesterol is 210 and your HDL is 70, now you have a ratio of 3.0, and that is very good. And if our total goes up to 240 and our HDL goes down to 60, now that ratio would be 4. And we are still going to be good as long as the other markers don't look too terrible. But on the other hand, if we have a total cholesterol of 180 and an HDL of 30, then that's a ratio of 6, and that is high risk. And we see that a low HDL number is almost always associated with a higher degree of inflammation and oxidative stress. But then we're also going to have people who have much higher numbers, like 300 over 75, 300 total, 75 HDL, and the ratio now is 4. But these people are most of the time going to be perfectly fine as long as the other markers that we're talking about look good. And then we're going to have a lot of people who have much higher numbers, like 300 total and 75 HDL. So the ratio now would be 4.0. And I would still say that this person is, for the most part, they're going to be okay. But you want to start looking at some other markers and make sure that you understand
Can you just say that?
what they're telling you, that they're in a good range. And here's one more marker that I like even better than the previous, which is triglycerides to HDL ratio. And the reason I like this even better is that triglycerides are such a strong indicator of insulin resistance and metabolic disease. So generally today, when we look at this ratio among people who do functional medicine, they find that a low risk is anyone who's less than 2. And high risk would be anyone over 3.5. So for example, if you have 150 in total triglycerides, but your HDL is 75, now you would be at 2.0 and you would be okay. But here's what I have found over a number of years, and my personal numbers, and virtually all the people that I check that are on a low carb diet and who have become insulin sensitive. I find that even though they're talking about a normal triglyceride level being all the way up to 150 or even 200, I find that on low carbs, your triglycerides are typically going to run between 50 and 80. And for most people, if your HDL is between 50 and 70, then you're going to find a ratio of around 1. So yes, you do definitely want to be below 2, but I find that people on low carb are typically much less than that. And just for comparison, the NCEP guidelines, the first one didn't really talk about triglycerides at all or HDL. On 2 and 3, they started mentioning it, but there wasn't a lot of emphasis. But they said that a borderline triglycerides would be around 200. And then if you had an HDL of 40, which was kind of borderline, now that ratio would be 5, which is way, way, way higher in above the high risk level. And even what they considered ideal, which would be 150 of triglycerides, and a HDL of 60, which they consider highly protective, now you're still going to have a ratio of 2.5, which is above that ideal level of 2.0. And then there are some other good markers that you want to include if you can, and one is called high sensitivity C-reactive protein. And an optimum level there.
All right, that's enough of that. Oh, anyway, I like bringing in some medical stuff. Cancer is cured if you can't live without sugar and without oxygen. So if you know people with cancer or you're afraid, just stop eating sugar. Stop eating sugar. Cancer can't survive. Now, again, that's him talking, but I'm relaying it. So there's cholesterol. I know Ron asked about cholesterol yesterday. I sent him this video in an email, but basically it's not bad for you. I mean, the worst was that LDL if they're tiny, but if we're eating the way we're supposed to, you don't have to worry about it. So cholesterol is not a worry. The statins are the worry, not the cholesterol. So just be careful. The doctor is marketing it to sell the drugs. Understand that. So I'd rather listen to him and the woman tell me about medicine, and they can explain it. So it's sort of like the football. I'm teaching you what to look for and how to bet football versus a guy who's pulling it out of a class, who's looking at closing line value and statistics to try to pick it. You can't. Look, I used to play gold stocks because I'd watch the 10 o'clock drop, and when it start coming up, I'd buy it. All right, simple as that. I didn't need statistics or anything. And you can fuck statistics up easily. They did that. They had time of possession and turnovers. So it's what's important. I mean, you could look at turnovers, but you really don't know. I'm not going to bet because of turnovers. I'm betting because the quarterback and the defense and the coach. That's what I'm betting on. So anyway, that's about it for today. So again, I gave you a couple of free plays, basically. The Denver game and the Seattle under are your free plays to make up for the Philadelphia craziness. And again, that's just the coach, Ben Johnson. Apparently, it wasn't Dan Campbell, it's Ben Johnson. And now the Lions are stuck with Dan Campbell, who is turning out to not really know what he's doing as much as Ben Johnson did. So be careful with that. Anyway, so that's what's going on. So good luck today. Let's go watch some football. I'll go to the swim about 2:30, and it did snow, but the roads are fine. So they're pretty good at plowing the roads and salting the roads, so we can have more construction next spring. Anyway, enjoy. I hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving. Um, so I feel much better. Yesterday, it was weird. That's Ohio State under one, and then it was like Virginia wins, and this one, and this one, and then and they all won, and the only one was a small play on USC over, which I was kind of a hunch because they normally score a lot. They only put up 29, so you got to be careful in these rivalries. But we'll look at Alabama, Georgia tomorrow. And now I might have problems with my internet. Spectrum's supposed to be doing things. So I don't know what's going to happen if I lose my internet. I'm okay on the TV. I have the antenna and the DVD player so I can watch movies. But I should be able to contact us on the phone because it's not Spectrum. This is Verizon or whatever. So I can still do the show. I remember when I had gout in my foot, I didn't do I had to do it from the couch, the class. And again, I had the roast and my feet right now is fine. So we'll see. And that's a bit. So I'm going to go there and I'll probably stop at the grocery store because I'll be hungry. And a little bit of roast left and not much, little chicken left and not much. And we will eat that. That'll be lunch. I'll probably have an omelet later. Keeping away from the high fructose corn syrup, the carbs. It's better to eat steaks and ribs and hamburger than it is sandwiches and like pizza and like I don't even know how these pizza places and the like these sub shops are still available. Who the fuck's eating? It's just a ton of carbs. You know how unhealthy a pizza and the Subway sandwiches are? Oh my God. So they better come out with veggie stuff. And I don't know what they're going to do with pizza, but people see it's cheap, but it's garbage and it's a lot of carbs. So you got to be careful eating the pizza, then wondering why you're fat and why you don't feel good when you just ate a bunch of carbs that your body doesn't like. So with that, I will say fond farewell. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And good luck if you're betting the games today. But I'm trying to teach you how to bet. I taught money management Saturday. So again, it's how much can I afford to lose? And then you bet a little chunk. And then when you meet somebody like me who's a real handicapper and a real professional bettor, then the secrets are I'm going to give you a lot of games and go 75% on the games. I'm not giving you 3 plays. I'm giving you 10 plays and I'm going to give you 7 winners. That's the key. Most weeks I do. Some weeks I do 10. I go 10 for 10, 9 and 1. Very rarely will I go 5 and 5. That happens once in a while. But if you understand that, you're not betting a lot. You're betting small amounts. And then with the 75%, you're increasing your bankroll. And that's what it is. And that's why I'm successful because I can always find 10 games. And then I just take, like today, I'm like, I had Green Bay, the Dallas over and Cincinnati over all on Thursday, and they all won. And it was like, there you go. That's 3 games out of the sheet. I played all 3, and I was happy they won. You could have a nice Thanksgiving. All right. Have a good day. I'm off. I'm going to eat and then off to the pool and a little bit at the grocery store. All right. Take care, everybody. Enjoy. We're into December tomorrow and look for the gold and silver to go through the roof as they are going to, as you can see, the supply is gone in the real world, not the COMEX bullshit made off paper world. So in COMEX, they don't care about the physical, but in the real world, there's no physical. So the demand for gold and silver are still huge. So they'll pay. I can't get any for 10. I'll pay 20. I need it. I got to get out of dollars. I got to get out of this. And that's really what's triggering it. So be careful there. All right. I think the sun's coming out. It's getting brighter. Have a good day then. I'll see you tomorrow. www.teaserking.com. You want to get a hold of me. All right. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving. Enjoy today's football.